Hi, I'm Hannah. I'm going to be talking to you today about how to use interactive storytelling to increase your user engagement. So I describe myself as a storyteller first and designer second. I trained as a graphic designer. I started my own company called Handspring It Limited. I hate the name, so we are changing to an agency name. I started the business just before we went into lockdown. Started with just me being a freelancer, and now we've grown to an agency of over 20 on the team. I am a senior product designer for Condé Nast. We help with their interactive storytelling and also work with their commercial team to help improve engagement on their native articles. And I also lecture at two universities. I lecture on the MA for interactive storytelling at Westminster University and also a couple of the online courses for Condé Nast College. So today we're going to talk about interactive storytelling and how it can improve user engagement. We're going to break that down into three parts. The first being how to create visual variety. And this is really about how to make your content more memorable and get your users to retain more information. We're then going to move on to utilizing animation and video. And this is really to help increase the amount of time people spend on your pages and increase the dwell time. And lastly, we're looking at how to tailor your interactions to make them really relevant for the users that you're putting your web content out to. And that's really going to help you increase click-through rates and interactivity and making sure that they click on all the buttons that you want them to click on when you're designing. So I think the first point where we need to start here is what is interactive storytelling? And to answer that question, I've got a quote that's been written by someone else. Interactive storytelling is the art of telling stories enhanced with technological, social, or collaborative interactive features. Now, there's a lot of buzzwords thrown into that. It sounds very confusing. I think the way we see it is that traditionally working in the publishing space, we work with a lot of long editorial content. So that's a lot of writing. It's a lot of text. And how we see improving their interactive storytelling is really making it more engaging by adding visuals and using no-code platforms and interactivity to really combine these things into making it a much more immersive experience. So all of these things, we are using editorial content and no-code platforms and bringing them together to bring a better experience to our users. So it all really started with the New York Times. There was a piece called Snowfall that they released back in 2012. It was called Snowfall. It was the first kind of interactive microsite that was released in this way. And what they did was try to engage their audience by putting loads of edge-to-edge video content, drop caps, bulleted lists, audio references, image galleries. And they really pushed this to the nth degree by using lots of different media types in there to tell this story. And I think what they wanted to claim is that they wanted to be the future of journalism. And I think ever since 2012, all of the other publishers have been playing catch up to this one piece that everyone really knows about. So most of the people listening to this will have seen or heard of Snowfall in some format. Moving on from that, I feel that the publishing space has had to change with the times. I feel that the internet has changed dramatically since we went into lockdown, and the things that we've all experienced, being kept in our own homes, making sure that we're scrolling endlessly on our devices, and all of the media companies, news sites, publishers are trying to keep our attention for just that little bit longer. And as you can see on the screen here, like how familiar are these types of charts to us now? And I think this is all part of interactive storytelling, where they've got thousands and thousands of data points all crammed into these four charts. And all of these kind of news and publisher sites are trying to find new ways to make information more digestible on a faster turnaround. So at my company and at Condé Nast and all the clients that we work with, we try to use a suite of no-code tools. And that really allows us to choose which one is more suitable for the client and the problem that they have at hand. My experience comes from working in-house at Xerox. I worked there for many years and saw it go from a startup to a larger company. Since leaving there, we're still working with, as I mentioned, a lot of these publisher clients, but we try and look at the range of no-code platforms from high-end subscription services really down to the kind of free online apps and free online tools that are available. And we just try and make sure that we're kind of using them for what they're good for. I mean, there's one example on here, and we use something called Motion Leap, which is, under $10, and it really changes, imagery that we kind of use up to some of the more expensive ones. And it's a really exciting time for me in the business. We've taken on Webflow. We've got some Webflow developers. So we're really looking forward to going into 2022 to explore like what we can link into Webflow with WebGL, 3D worlds, and more scroll activated storytelling experiences. So I think it's a really exciting time to be in that no code space, and the amount of time you save in development by using them is really, really exciting. So this is where we're kind of working with the publishers to find what tool is right for them. And some of these examples that we'll show today use a range of what you see here. So the first part to this talk is talking about creating a visual variety. And I think this stems from having long form editorial that is extremely long. Journalistic, tendencies typically seem to be a lot of type on the page. And we really need to kind of step up the visual content in that. So what you can see here, we're going to start with the stat that you only retain 10% of what you hear. This is a kind of frightening statistic. For me to sit here and be giving a talk, it means that you're going to remember 1 out of 10 things that I'm probably going to say to you. Depressing for me as a speaker, but again, we need to work on ways on how we communicate to make sure you retain more of that information. That doubles and goes to 20% when you read something. So the article you read on the way to work or in a newspaper, you're probably going to retain 20% of that information. And this jumps dramatically up to 80% in visual content, which is what you see. So your eyes are picking up this data and processing it much faster, and it's sort of sinking into your brain, in a much more effective way if you're looking at visuals on the page. So why are visuals like this much, more available for us to kind of retain that information? And there's a statistic here, and a lot of you would have seen this previously, is that visuals are processed 60,000 times faster than text is. So realistically, what we're telling our users is to make your content as visual as possible. And that doesn't have to mean just putting static images into your content. Obviously, it's a start, but there are a lot of other ways that you can input imagery and visual content into your storytelling. So to look into some of these types, we're going to just look at these 6 themes here. You can see photography is listed first there. This is really your first step to bringing kind of static photography in. And there's a fun fact that there's 7 times the amount of engagement if you craft your imagery a little bit more. So if you've got an art director, if you're shooting your own photography and you're not relying on stock imagery, you're more likely to get 7 times the amount of engagement. And I think moving over to the second theme here of introducing video, we talk about cinemagraphs in the next section, but there's a very easy way of, creating imagery to go into that video section to increase movement on the page. Also picking up illustrations, especially working with Condé Nast's brand at Wired, we're seeing more illustrations kind of educate their users in different things. And that also means that those illustrations can be tailored more towards your content than anything else. Data visualization and charts and stats and tickers on your content will also grab the attention to your content, which really, really helps. And that kind of looking at typography as a whole, you need to set up a visual hierarchy of what your headers are, what your quotes are. Are you using drop caps? Are you using bulleted lists? Are you using numbered lists? And all of those things are going to help you navigate your users into skimming down the content and finding the bite-sized morsels that they really want to find. And the last one on there is using iconography as well. So if you are suffering the fact that you don't have many images, you can always bring icons in to break up chapters or sections or, bullets, around those bite-sized bits of content. It's about breaking up that content into smaller components that all have a kind of visual attached to them, which is going to make it a lot more memorable. Now, we wanted to match this up with a case study that we've worked on. We worked on this in January earlier this year. And this was to allow Red Bull's users to track these athletes up one of the tallest climbs in Europe, up this crazy chimney. And they really wanted to introduce much more video content. So you can see that it's got edge-to-edge background videos. You can see that there's infographical elements where you can see how the climbers are getting on. So at the bottom, you can see percentages of how they're feeling. On the left-hand side, you can see that we've got this illustration of the chimney where you can jump up. So there's hotspots and icons using there. And again, as you kind of navigate around the screen, we can see that there's hotspots there showing hidden bits of content as you roll over it. So with Red Bull, we're really trying to put as many different media types into one story to allow our users to kind of integrate and interact with it in their own ways. And we've seen, against their benchmarks, they've actually got 5 times the amount of people click through to view their documentaries with interactive content like this than a standard article page. So really, really good success story there. So moving on to the second section, and this is all about utilizing animation and video. And we've really seen that we need to focus much more around creating animated content. So the stat I'm going to bring up here is that motion graphics tend to increase conversions by more than 80%. And again, this comes back to like around illustrations, that with animated graphics, or if you're getting an illustrator to create this content, it can really tell a story that's unique to you and your brand. This example here, again, is from a Red Bull esports game that we created. And they created these wonderful GIFs where this illustrator made the movements themselves. And in the last 6 months on our team specifically, we've had to find more animators. We've had to ask all of our graphic designers on interview if they've got animation experience, because all of our clients are seeing that it's much more needed in every story. Now, it doesn't have to be groundbreaking. As I mentioned before, cinemagraphs are one of the simplest forms of animation that you can bring to your storytelling. And you can see here, this was a piece that we did for GQ. It's a beautiful image that they went and shot themselves with Lenny Kravitz. And you can see on the left, very static. That was the image we were provided. And with a very, very lo-fi, mobile app, we were able to add like these kind of flame effects and looping, fire flames that bring animation. And I think that as you're scrolling through this endless content that we're supplied every day, there's little things that need to trigger you just to pause just for a moment. And cinemagraphs are a really great way of doing this. And whether this be on your social media or your long form content, it's a really great way to do it. And it says here, it can generate up to 5.6 times more engagement. So I think as we think about the idea that we are scrolling through endless amounts of content, it's become part of our DNA that you're using your mobile on the commute to work, or you might be just sitting watching TV, scrolling through endless Instagram feeds. And I think what we need to pay more attention to is that no-code platforms now are allowing us to create content that moves on scroll. And this is where we're really stepping in to kind of new animation techniques. And this is what we're kind of playing around with WebGL going into next year, is like having these guided experiences that are triggered on scroll that are going to allow our users to, instead of click on everything, they're going to be animating the content in a certain way. And it might be through 5 different chapters, but all you're asking the user to do is scroll through that. And I think by dissecting it into small sections, adding that animation on scroll to break up the content, it's really going to improve that interactive storytelling journey. So the case study we wanted to use here was one that we did for the Condé Nast College. So we were teaching ReadyMag. It was a really cheap platform for the students to get hold of. They actually got free access to using it. And you can see with what you can see on screen here is that we used a number of different animations. We used the on-scroll animation to have things fly towards you. We used on-hover animations there to kind of show different content as you rolled over things. And we tried to be a bit more playful with the content, because the students here wanted their showcase of work to be much more fun, much more kind of brought to life with sticky objects and things flying towards you and, fading out of the page. We were really allowed to kind of push this one to kind of use a variety of animations, whether it be horizontal, whether it be GIFs, and again, whether it be on hover. So we really threw everything at this piece, and it was a really fun one to kind of play around with this idea of animation to increase your dwell time. So moving into the last section, we really kind of encourage our clients to tailor the interactions depending on what the subject matter is. And I think we're lucky enough to work with these publishers that have these great stories to tell, but we really want to make sure that the interactions they're using aren't just like forcing in an image gallery or forcing in a carousel or putting in an accordion. We're really tailoring the kind of concept of the interaction to the story they're telling. So you can see on this example here, we've got a before and after, and that's very much in the beauty space that really works. So we've seen that interactive content can actually boost conversions by about 70%. So it's really about getting this right mix of the right interaction for the right content. So we've got some other examples here. This is our kind of most requested interaction, and it still seems very, very simple. The idea of just adding simple hotspots that on hover show more information. It's a really successful tactic, and it's very, very simple to do on these no-code tools. It's making the content more digestible. It means that you don't have to have all of that content on the screen at one time, and it's allowing your user to really navigate themselves about what they want to find out. And this has really helped us kind of promote single-based products at Condé Nast. So this is an example from Allure that is one of their brands. And just showing off an Adidas trainer here, you can see that we've picked 3 sellable points, and then we've matched it with the call to action to shop the product on the right hand side, and tailoring this kind of lifestyle information with the commercial click through is really going to help users find what they need to know. The next one we've done extensive user testing on is playing around with autoplay video and adding sound bites. This piece here was a interactive piece for Wired, and it was a story created for H&M about the life cycle of clothing. And with this one, what we really wanted to do is make sure that the interview and the sounds and the things that they recorded as part of the video were brought into that reading experience. So we had a video that was produced at the bottom of the page, and throughout the article, we injected these sound bites as kind of teasers that, because the article was built around so many quotes that were in the production, just having the sound bites meant that people were kind of more likely to click and have a bit of a teaser. And we found that actually led to more people wanting to click through to watch the full video at the bottom of the article. So it's simple plays around that and giving people a full 360 experience. It doesn't just have to be video. Extracting some of the sound from an existing video that you might have could be a technique that you bring into your own work. So the next thing we've seen a massive increase of requests for is that idea of choose your own journey. And whether that be a personalized quiz, like your typical BuzzFeed, like what's my personality type or what's my horoscope going to tell about me? Those type of quizzes are, still really popular, and they always increase the number of people that want to get through to the end of an experience. And we've also seen that happen with decision trees. And we're also playing around internally at my company with interactive video. We play around with Wirewax quite a lot. You're able to kind of choose your own decision and choose what clothing you might like, or what end to the story you might choose based on a timeline. But all of these techniques allow the user to feel you're personalizing the experience for them, which is really, really great. And we're trying to personalize this content as much as possible for our users so they feel they're getting something back. So then lastly, the case study that I wanted to end on here is this idea about making it personal and taking this to the next level. The idea of gamification and trying to make something more playful. We've introduced a module here that you can see allows the user to choose their own skin tone and then choose some of the shades that they might like. And again, rather than just showing a set of photographs, Allure have gone to that extra step of actually creating illustrations to be a bit more playful, in the aesthetic of the creative there. And then again, it's matched up with Shop the Look on the right-hand side. So again, it's allowing you to personalize your content or find out a little bit more about the product or the range and then shop it afterwards. And again, it's these type of little tricks that we're using to try and get the users to engage more with the content. To sum up, what we're looking at here is that there are different ways and in different visual cues that you can introduce to increase your user engagement. So to go over those, creating visual variety, using different media types, pushing your content a little bit further is going to be a great way of increasing that retention and making your content more memorable. The next thing, utilizing animation, looking at more video content, bringing that in to really increase your dwell time is going to be helpful. And then the last thing is really tailoring your interactions to be more relevant to your content is going to help improve your click rates overall. And that's it from me. I hope you found that useful, and we look forward to hearing from you soon. Thank you.